Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, the technology gremlins are at it again. So at the very beginning of this video, help me out. Let me know that number one, you can hear me because these guys are boogers. Oh my goodness. I am so excited to share with you this secret tip that I learned way back in the beginning of homeschooling, and it worked beautifully. But I want to make sure that technology is not totally against me. So, number one, the technology gremlins are at it again. What does that mean? I have something for you. I wanted to show you the printed version, and it's not working. So, anyway, let's start as you jump on, whether you're watching live or whether you're going to catch this as a replay. Say hi. Let me know how long you've been homeschooling and how many kids you have around your kitchen table at the moment. Because, getting the conversation, chatting happen actually helps more moms get to see this tip that I am going to share with you. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite tips for homeschooling multiples. When the season of life that I'm remembering, because of course my hair was dark brown in this season that I'm about to share with you, I had 5 kids. I still have 5 kids, but they were little at the time. And I have 12 years difference between our oldest and our youngest. So the challenge is, how do you teach older kids and keep the younger kids alive, happy, content, out of trouble, right? So how do we do this? And I gleaned what I'm about to share with you, from one of my best friends. Was at the time a kindergarten teacher, and so I can't take all the credit for it, but it worked beautifully. So by the time we're done with this video, I'm going to explain what these PlayStation things are that I'm talking about. And we're going to talk about how to make them work. This is so important. This is the part that people skip. Don't skip this part. So we're going to talk about how to make it work and why this type of a routine is so powerful when you're homeschooling more than one kid. So before I get too far, somewhere in the descriptions, wherever the descriptions are, you're going to find a link that's going to bring you to the Google document that I created that for some reason the gremlins don't want me to print. And so I'm still trying to access that file so I can give it to you as a download. But right now you have direct access to it. So we'll talk about it more in a second. But the link is in there. At the very end, on the last page, is an invitation to Homeschooling with Secret Sauce. If you are a Homeschooling with Secret Sauce mom, do me a favor and just comment below about why it's in a magical place. But inside Secret Sauce, you will get a PDF copy of my book, Homeschooling from the Inside Out. You get access to my amazing Secret Sauce activity cards and so much more. So anyway, that's the little blip. Okay, so let's talk about this. When you are homeschooling with multiples, what I'm going to share with you, you need a couple things. The first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is go to the craft store, and I want you to get the clear, the bubble things that you put in a vase that kind of hold things together. Get some of those and get some magnets and some hot glue. And then find either old maps, pictures of your kids, or artwork, and you're going to cut them out and you're going to create custom magnets for each of your little kids. Okay. I loved making them from maps. So my kids had different maps from different places around the world. So you're going to want to take a day where you're going to create or find magnets for each of your children. Then you are going to create PlayStations. And we're going to start. I created these PlayStation charts. When my kids were little, I had just a simple chart on the refrigerator, and it had banners of different things that the kids could do. So we're going to talk about what this is, but this is a PlayStation chart that you would put on your refrigerator. And we're going to talk about how you use it. But as your kids are selecting, they're going to take their fancy magnet that you made during arts and crafts time, and then they're going to place it on the station that they're going to go play and do. And they're going to spend, you're going to set a timer, and they're going to spend 10 to 30 minutes, depending on their age. This is groundbreaking. I'm telling you that what happens when you have a PlayStation chart is that with a little bit of training, which we'll talk about, you'll do 2 stations with your littles, take a break, and then they'll do 2 more stations. At the sweet spot of 20 minutes a station, that means you have 40 minutes, a break, and another 40 minutes to work with your older kids. This is so powerful. This is how you can teach a 5th grader math and still keep the 3-year-old safe and under control. So let's talk about this for a second. PlayStations are not just for traditional school. You can absolutely create them at home. And I highly recommend that you create PlayStations. When I did this, my kids were varying ages and stages. And actually, let me tell you a story a little bit. I was sitting in the kitchen, and I had one of my kids standing on a chair at the kitchen sink, and he was washing toys. I had another child in the high chair, and he was playing with stuff on the high chair. I had a kid in a playpen, and I was working with 2 kids at the table. And great grandma was visiting. And great grandma looked around and she said, "Bekki, this is just like the one-room schoolhouse that I used to teach way back in Iowa." She goes, "Don't even worry about what the little kids are learning because they're absorbing everything around you." And I thought, okay, this is magic. PlayStations are things that you decide that your kids are going to play with, things that you're going to hold ransom. These are not toys that they have direct access to all the time. These are not activities that they get to do anytime that they want. These are activities set aside during school time, and they're fun, right? You hold the gold for these PlayStations. So ones that we used in our house were the favorite was water play, especially for the little kids. And so we had a chair, I had a bin of things that the kids could wash, and then varying washing supplies like pipe cleaners, bottle brushes, and sponges, and all the stuff. And then I would put in different things that they could wash. They could wash their toys. They could wash, the plastic cups and things. One of my kids, I kid you not, his absolute favorite thing to do was make the sink spotless. That is a mom hack for the win. Okay, so they did water play. We had a puzzle station. We had a Lego station. We had bins of library books or special books that weren't just 100% accessible during the day. We also had art supplies, a sandbox, Play-Doh. You get the drift. And I had these bins or bags of activities that were only allowed during school time. And so the way that these stations become an asset to you is you decide, and I have one where I put in the types of activities that my kids did. So there were water play activities, coloring, mazes, or worksheets. Some of my kids really liked those things. I had, at the time, we lived in a place where the backyard was fenced, and we had a beautiful play set and sandboxes and things in the backyard. So outdoor play was a station. We don't invest in a 401k. We invest in Legos. So we have so many Legos. So we absolutely had a Lego station. We had dress up bins galore, loved to go to the thrift store and pull up costumes and things. We also had art supplies and then varying activities. So what I would encourage you to do is to pick 9 different things that your kids would love to do. And in the printouts, I have one that has all of the things that my kids loved. And then I have a blank one that you can write. And then I have one with more advanced artwork for your older children, right? And then also there's instructions for everything that I'm about to tell you. So PlayStations. The way that PlayStations will not work is, so we start wrong first, right? You throw the PlayStations up, you give your kid their magnet, and you set a timer and you say, go do this for 20 minutes. And then they fight or they complain and then they whine. So I'm going to teach you how to actually do this successfully. And I can see someone said, hello. It's like, hey, Hester, so nice to see you. Yay. So everybody, when you hop on, even if you're watching on the replay, say hi. Let me know how long you've been homeschooling, how many kids you have around your table. It helps. So instead of just throwing it up, what you want to do is you want to set your kids up for success. So the way that you set up for success, anybody? You practice. So what you do the day that you're sitting down to make the magnets, you're going to tell your kids, let me remove this, you're going to tell your kids, hey, we are going to be making special magnets. And the magnets are going to be we're going to create some fun stations, spots and activities for you to move through during the homeschool day. And you're going to need a very special magnet for you to pick which things you're going to be doing on any given day. So first, you're just spending time having a snack and making a cute craft together. The next day, when you pull out your PlayStation, so you will already do the homework, you are going to figure out what kind of activities will capture your kids' attention. And there's no judgment. It could be a short documentary. It could be a video game. It could be playing Minecraft. It could be Pokemon. It could be fill in the blank. These are the types of things that we did for our kids. So there were science-y typed activities, nature things, lots of water. At the time, we lived in San Diego, so that made a lot of sense. So now you're going to have your PlayStation poster. You're going to have this printed and laminated, and you're going to put it on your refrigerator or some other magnetic surface. And you're going to talk to your kids, and you're going to say, every day for school, we're going to set up 4 to 6 different stations, depending on how many kids you have, from this list. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take each of the supplies. So for the water play, the whole family is going to go to the water play station. You're going to take the supplies and you're going to say, okay, so for your water play station, you're going to have 20 minutes to play in the water. And you're going to teach them what that looks like. You're going to set a timer and you're going to talk through it. I will give you special things for you to play with the water. This is the apron that you will wear so that you don't soak your clothing. This is the towel that you will use for cleanup. And then you'll talk through all the rules for the water play station. When the timer goes off, you will move to the next station. Okay, for Lego building, here's the sheet or there's this magic bin. It's like this pop-up thing that you can scoop and dump all the Legos in. We always used a sheet when my kids were little. Here's the sheet that you'll lay down on the floor. And here's where you will play Legos until the timer goes off. And so you'll sit there and you'll build with the Legos for a few minutes with your kids during practice time. And what you're going to do is you're going to spend 2 to 4 days, depending on your kids, you're going to spend that much time teaching how each station works, what the setup is, how they go about doing all the things. You're going to have 2 timers at the end of each session, and you're going to teach your kids this. The first timer is going to be your 2-minute warning. Because, Mama, could you imagine if somebody just walked into your house right this second and said, that's it, you're done, get off the computer, we're leaving? You'd be like, what? What do you mean? Your kids need time to break free from whatever they get absorbed in. And so giving a 2-minute warning, you teach them when that first timer goes off, I'm going to say, oh, that's your 2-minute warning. You have 2 more minutes to enjoy what you're doing, and then it's time to clean up and do the next thing. Ready? Yes, mommy. And you have that callback. You have them say that because now they know they only have a couple more minutes to play that station. Then when the second timer goes off, oh, cleanup time. And you're going to take a few days to train them how to do each and every station, from setup to cleanup, from sit down and use inside voices to not whining and complaining when it's done. Does that make sense? So you're going to be practicing with the timer, sitting and doing the stations where you're teaching them how to do it. Then you're going to say, okay, we're going to do a practice run today. Please listen to what I'm about to say. Please listen, because you're doing this so that you can work with your older kids, right? You're not trying to get school done on the days. School meaning the academics. You're not trying to get academics done. You're teaching the rhythm of the day, the routine, what it looks like to successfully move through a station. This is powerful. I worked with a teacher one time where she shared her classroom with our local church. And what it meant was that at the end of every single day, they had to break down their entire classroom and set it back up for the church facilities. These were 12-year-old kids. And she's like, can you imagine how much time I'm going to lose? She spent 2, count them, 1-2 solid weeks where all the kids did was practice the routine. That's all they did. They broke down the room and they set the room back up. They'd take a break. They'd set a timer until they could do it within 5 minutes. I thought she was crazy, spending 2 weeks practicing that routine. But you know what happened? That woman was brilliant. They never lost a moment of academic time again because they got the routine down. When you're doing something like stations, the power of teaching your kids the routine cannot be underestimated. Now, you're going to struggle thinking that you're wasting your time. Why do I need to go through this for 3 days and not do math, not do language arts, not do history, not do science? Because you are buying yourself time in the future, Mama. This is so powerful. All 5 of my kids would run through their stations. It was powerful. And actually, I have to say the 4 younger kids ran through their stations. I could teach algebra, writing, history, science. We could do amazing things that the little kids weren't ready to do with my older son in 20-minute pockets of time twice a day. That meant we had, what's 40 plus 40? We had 80 minutes where we could focus one-on-one, and the little kids were content. Oh my gosh, it was magic. But the power is not in the PlayStation. The power is in holding the toys for ransom, or the puzzles, or the projects, or the art supplies. They can't be stuff that they can get access to every day. They have to be things that they're like, oh, let me touch the fill in the blank, whatever that is. It has to have this kind of a factor to it. That's why God invented thrift stores, by the way. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this stuff. But you hold the things for ransom, and then you teach them how to go through the stations, how to clean them, how to set them up, etc. You also teach, well, what do you do if you get 5 minutes into a station and you decide it's boring? What do you do then? So you train that in as you go. For my kids, what I always taught right from the beginning is you have that poster, right? And in our house, age has its privileges. So the oldest kid always got to choose stations first, and then we'd go down. Sorry, life's not fair. So, but you always got a chance to switch. If they chose a station that after 5 minutes, they decided it was boring, They always had the opportunity to completely clean up and then sit down and read. That's right. They always had the opportunity to read. So train in everything. You're trying to anticipate what the problems are, and you're trying to give them the solutions, and then you practice. You have everybody go to their station. Okay, right now we're going to practice. Everybody pick a station and go. So they're all going to go. And now I want you to pretend that you decide this is no longer fun. What are you going to do next? And then they'll clean up, and then they'll do whatever you've decided is okay for them to do. Does that make sense? We train our children for success. We train them with the habits and the problem solving skills so that they don't sit there and whine and cry. This totally works if you don't do it all on the same day. You cannot make the magnets, make the chart, put up all the PlayStations, and have the kids do all the stations on the same. It doesn't work. It takes about a week, depending on how many kids you have and their ages, takes about a week to set up your PlayStations. And then it's magic. I'm telling you, it's magic. I used PlayStations from the moment that I created them for the rest of my homeschooling career. And as the kids got older, the PlayStations became simpler and more focused. They would be that they could work on whatever magic project that they were working on. I had one kid that loved to crochet, one kid that loved to create with cardboard, one kid that loved to just look at stuff outside or whatever, writing their book, riding their bike around in the front yard. We would change the PlayStations according to the ages, and then we would fine tune them according to the kids' passions. And then we lived graciously by the timer, right? It's not a hard set rule. If the timer goes off and you've given the 2-minute warning and they decide, I am just getting started. You know how some of those activities are? Like I have this massive bin of wooden trains. And so when they were doing trains, the first 20 minutes was set up. So they would often ask, can I do this again for my next station? And of course, that totally works. You are completely in charge. But the magic is that you actually practice, and that you practice with the timer. And the practice days you do in these short little blips. We're going to practice 5 minutes at a time. We're going to do one station, clean up, do another station, take a break. The break is so important. You do a snack, you go for a short little walk. Don't go far. It's not a good time to do errands, but you do like this short little burst. Then you do another station and then another station. I tried to have my stations personally go from something that was active to quiet. So they could play outside and then they could read, or they could build Legos and then they could do some bursty thing like water play, so that there was this kind of ebb and flow. The brain is powerful, but it can only focus on something for 20 to 40 minutes before it gets bored. And before it starts looking for other things to do. Your kids' brains are just like your brains. You get bored. After 20 or 30 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm ready for this one to be over. So that's the magic of keeping the PlayStations short and for giving the warning bell before you move on to the next thing. So PlayStations, embrace this. Grab the free printable and then go through your house and see what you already have. You know, we had, at one point, I had a school bin, and the school bin was filled with pipe cleaners, stringing beads, puzzles, a lot of discovery toys. I had a lot of those. We would do sidewalk chalk stations when it was beautiful out. All kinds of stuff, bubbles and arts and crafts, glitter outside, not inside. We did lots of stuff with pinto beans and glue. But every time you introduce your kids to something that could be disastrous, like just imagine handing a 5-year-old a bottle of glue and beans and a coloring page and saying, okay, you trace, with the glue, and then you put the beans on. So you can see the glue everywhere, right? So before you do that station, you train them about how to do the glue. A really good exercise is to take a pencil or a pen. I don't have one handy. Take an ink pad and you dip a pencil on a piece of paper and you put dots all over the paper. And then you practice making the right size dot of glue. Train your kids so that they don't empty the glue bottle all over the table. Oh, I know this because my kids emptied more than one bottle of glue. The power of seeing an issue and then training it properly is really where the magic is. It's the magic of seeing the hurdle and saying, okay, the same way that you would teach your child how to change a tire in your driveway on a sunny day, rather than wait for them to be stuck on the side of the road and not even know what a jack is or not know how to do it, right? So you train them first so that they can be successful at it later. Does that make sense? So PlayStations, they are so instrumental to just your success, especially if you have multiple age kids, because you have something safe that you're training your little kids to do while you're working with your older kids. It doesn't mean that they're not going to paint the bathroom with nail polish. You got to still keep track of your kids. It's okay. You can have all of the stations in the same room. I did that for one season. The stations are really good for about a couple weeks, and then you need to change them up. You either need to change the toys, change the supplies, or change the activities altogether. It's why I created the blank page in there, so that as you are going, you can, and there's a mom's choice, so they always have that be a good thing. Don't have it be, don't have them regret asking you for, have some magic up your sleeve. But the thing is that you can have these PlayStations set and ready to go. And as they get older, they don't have to be PlayStations. They can just be learning stations, right? In the good old days, way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet, right? We used to sit and we would do audiobooks in the classroom with the old-fashioned tape recorder, and we would listen to books and then beep, turn the page. My kids and I actually created our own audiobooks where we would sit together. One kid would be in charge of the sound. And then, so they'd go beep or boop or whatever. I would read the story and they would go beep. We'd turn the page. We would record it and then put the book and the tape, because I used old-fashioned tape recorder. You can still buy them on Amazon. So we used old-fashioned tape recorder, and I had a Ziploc bag that had the tape headset and the tape recorder inside with the book. And so I guess whatever, it was packaged so they could pull the book set out and then sit and listen to the story. And those were really fun because you had the natural sounds of the family around. So if I read aloud and I had the baby next to me, you would hear the baby talking. And it's not a distraction. It's bringing those stories to life in a way that the child that will do the read aloud later, they'll remember those moments, right? It'll turn into this magical memory thing. It's super cool. So PlayStations are magical. They're magical if you train them to be. You have to take the time to make the fun magnets or how they're going to be doing that and make that a one-day art activity. You have to take the time to think through, well, what do I have in my house right now? If I were to do it today, there would be a Lego station, a ceramic station, a crochet station, a basketball hoop station, a Pokemon station, because one of my kids loves Pokemon. There would be a ripstick station for them to ride the ripstick. There would be sidewalk chalk, painting, reading, and napping. Resting can absolutely be one of the stations. Actually, I highly recommend it. If it's a beautiful day and there's clouds, you can have a cloud watching station where if you have a safe place, like a backyard that's fenced and they're within eyesight, you can have them lay and have all their stuffies with them, and they can just watch the clouds go by and just be, oh, it's that magic. So create some playstations, drop some ideas. If you've ever done anything like this with your kids, or you're hearing this and you're going, oh, what a brilliant idea. Well, that's because it is, not because it's mine. Remember, I stole it from somebody else in the beginning. That's the magic of being an older homeschooler. And I will end by saying, I hope that in the printable that you go to the last page and you jump in and you peek at the homeschooling with secret sauce. Because the magic of being an older homeschooler, where all my kids are potty trained, all my kids can read, all my kids can count without using their fingers. Well, except one, but they can count without using their fingers. All my kids are blah, blah, blah. They're at the end, right? And they're champion people. The beauty of being where I'm at is I can share this with you with full confidence that if you set up the PlayStations and make them delicious so that your kids are like, oh, I want to play with, fill in the thing. Oh, that's for our PlayStation. You'll get the opportunity when it's your turn. If you make them delicious and then you train them how to do it right? You want your kids to be responsible. I do too. You want them to set up well, to play quietly and to focus, and then to clean up when they're done. I had one, and I'll close with this. I had one mom really give me a hard time that I had trained my kids to actually have quiet time. By the time this was in full swing, you have to understand something. Once your kids get this, that they're not going to be interrupted by the baby, and they get to focus and they get to play, they start begging for PlayStations. We had another one called room time. Basically was set independent play time, where we worked up from 5 minutes to 45 minutes in a day of independent time for the kids. They loved it, loved it. Teaching your kids to play in a station or to play independently is such a huge skill. It is so needed today because kids need to know it's okay. They're not going to die if they get bored. They need to have that stick-to-itiveness. They need to be okay with silence and their own thoughts and being bored. Like, creativity lives on the other side of boredom. You should see the things that your kids are going to do if you give them that space in their day. It's, to quote my son, phantasmagoric. It's an amazing thing. So if you have questions about it, let me know. Grab the free printable. I would love to see if you have pictures of your PlayStations. I would love to see them. If you have ideas for PlayStations, questions about PlayStations, etc., you can drop the comments here, or you can even email me at abetterwaytohomeschool@gmail.com. So that's it. Have a wonderful time. I can't wait to hear how it works in your house because it absolutely worked in mine.